I'm going to be replacing my rear brakes, and this is a 2018 F-150 XLT. I think most of them are pretty similar, but you can just double check, make sure it fits for yours. So if you have 2018 and newer, I believe that's what it is. It has electronic parking brake. I'll show you how to disengage that. Otherwise, you can't press the caliper. If you want to do the front brakes, I actually did the front brakes previous of mine, and I'll put a link to the video there. So if you're interested in that, it's the same. It's actually a little bit easier because you don't have to deal with the parking brake. I'm also replacing the rotors just because it's a little bit older. I actually got this used. It has a lot of rust on it, and the rotors seem to be vibrating a little bit. So I'm going to work on that and try to do as safe as possible. You need to turn the emergency parking brake into maintenance mode. So first thing you do is press this all the way down, and you have to do all this and hold it in place. And then your accelerator to the floor, and then the key on position, not turned on, but just to the accelerator on, turn it off, and then turn it back on within 5 seconds. And then you can actually release this, and we'll go see if we can hear it. What's this? You'll see it says park maintenance mode. So that noise was the actuator on the brake actually disengaging. So I've seen some videos where you say you got to hold it and sit there. You don't actually have to do that. You can go to do that. I like to do this before I actually start jacking it up, so we don't having to try to get in here while it's on. So it's not as big of a deal on the back because there's less weight, there's no engine, but if you're going to be working on a truck, you might as well get the proper size. So don't be getting one of these little small jacks. I got this 3-ton jack, and then I got you don't really need, but I got 4-ton jack stands because that's all they had at the time. So just make sure you have the proper size to be working on a truck. And I'm going to be jacking up the back here, using right underneath the differential, and then the jack stands on the axle. Driveway actually slopes that way and slopes this way, so I'll be chalking the front wheel, so that's something important. It's rear wheel drive, so if you're picking them off the ground, then there's nothing holding the wheels in place, so you can worry of it rolling. Let's get the wheel off. Might be. Oh, this one's not bad. I like to take it and put it here, somewhere where I'm being paranoid, but if it would fall, it'd fall in that. So now we have access to the rotor. So I'm going to use, pull it over here, but it's 13 millimeter on the 2 caliper pins here. Black one here is the electronic brake. That's what we disengaged. The pins, again, there's one here, and then there's one at the bottom. It's 13 millimeter to get this off. And you want to hold it. There's a piece right here. Wrenches are not small enough to get in here, or thin enough. It's not very much room in there. So I'm just going to use a crescent wrench. It looks like it's about 18 millimeters, but you have to double check that. But again, mine are too thick to fit in there, so I'm going to loosen this pin here. It doesn't take that much force to hold that. But if you don't do that, hold that bit, this may spin around and damage the little boot. Luckily, this kit comes with new boots, so I'm going to replace those. But there's a 13 millimeter. It also has a Torx. I'm not really sure what it is. I could probably check it, but I feel more comfortable with the 13 millimeter anyway. Move it down on the bottom here. All right, then just the calipers can come right off. Here's the brake pads sitting on. More difficult with leaf springs like this, where you don't have anything hanging on. I usually like to have a hook to hang this on. And here you can see the brake pads. This is where the caliper was just on top right here. These easy come off pretty easy. This is like a friction fit right here. They still have a little bit of life left on them, but you're ready to replace everything anyways. And the other ones just slide out as well. So you can see now we've exposed the rotor, which is just going to come straight off. Luckily, it just doesn't have brackets where I'm used to other where the caliper bracket comes all the way over top here, and you have to take that off. It's much nicer. I don't see any retaining. Sometimes there's a retaining screw that kind of holds this on. Let it penetrate a little bit. Obviously, if you were keeping these, you wouldn't be hitting it. So I'm going to try it with a rubber mallet here. This never works, but I figured I'll just try it one more time. Usually end up hitting it pretty hard. Just trying to get this off because it's rusted around the shoulder there. Try it. Oh my gosh, I'm absolutely surprised. It actually came off. That's nice and easy. This is really, oh man, this is really grooved in the back here, so it's good I'm replacing these. So then I'm going to clean this up just so it doesn't, just it sits flat here because that's what we want the rotor to sit as flat as possible on there. Found these little wire brushes help to get in there. And then here I'm going to switch to the, oh, it looks like that's how they put some anti-seize on here. That's probably why. Thank you, whoever did this previous to me. Brake clean. Brought this just because I'm actually going to use this on the rotors as well, because they come with some other stuff on there. The oils from the factory, and you want to clean them off as good as possible. We actually want to get that completely off. Most I'm concerned about, or what I want to get clean, is right there at the shoulder, because it seems where it can bind up or make it not sit flat. Anything you have some buildup where it won't sit flat, and then might not be as completely flat as possible, and then you could get some wobble or anything to it. So this is what I got. These Power Extreme for the truck, Z36, which is for towing. Who knows if you really need it. I do a little bit of towing, so get a little bit extra here. I actually put these on the front. I like them so far, so it's good. We'll do this later. This gives you, once you install the brakes, you have to go out and break them in, so we'll do that later. It comes with the, what's nice, comes with the shims, which are these right here, which I'm about to take off in a minute, so you want to replace those. Comes with the grease, the high temperature grease, which you want to put it to keep it from squeaking, and then the pads. It's nice, and then it also comes in the pack. Gives you some of these new boots, these that go on the pins here. Sometimes these wear out, obviously because they're rubber, and this is what's takes the shock of it. So I have that, and then so this is the kit. I'll put a link in the description for what I got on Amazon, and then the rotors are in here, so I'm going to take these out, clean them with the right, so we got one. Make sure lugs are the number of lugs is correct, and then I'm going to take this, put it up next to the old one, just to make sure thickness looks the same and everything. It says it matched it. I checked the manufacturer's site as well, but just always good to double check. If this is normal, I don't think I've ever seen this before. Marks the driver's side, the passenger side. Not sure why it's different. Maybe if somebody knows, they can post in the comments. I think I've done several rotors, different cars. I don't think I've ever seen that. Interesting. Well, I'm just going to clean this off. Again, with the brake fluid cleaner. It says on the site you can do like soap and water. This is good. I like this because it evaporates up, and so you don't have to try to take that off, or it can evaporate. Try to get this sticker off here. This actually doesn't touch the brake pad, so it doesn't really matter. Maybe I'll leave it on there. And so I don't forget, just gonna make sure I take these off. You want to pay attention to the way they're on, so when you go put the new ones on, it'll be easier with a screwdriver. There we go. Sits on there like this, and that's what keeps the brakes from squeaking. One here on the bottom. On the outside. Just clean these off a little bit too. You like to clean all this stuff off, just Just because you can get all this brake dust in here. And this came with the replacement boots, so might as well change them out. Lip here on the bottom where this comes off. See that? And this is going to come out. It looks like they're greased pretty good. So I'm not gonna play with that. There's a lot of grease on there. Let's see when I take it off. Get this seated on there. Just make sure it's seated all around. There's good motion there. That's good. So I'm going to have to compress the caliper. Before I do that, I want to open up the master cylinder so it doesn't get any back pressure on it. So I'm going to do that. Just kidding, that's not the master cylinder. Here it is right here with a nice watt. That's not it either. Over here. So just want to, again, release this, open this up a little bit so that you can see it in there. It's also good to double check the level. I'm just going to keep any dirt or anything from getting into it, but I'm just going to keep that way. Because as you compress the caliper, it's going to push back on the fluid, and you don't want it back pressure or cause any issues. So I'm also going to monitor, make sure I don't overdo it or it doesn't leak out. Here's the caliper, and there's the piston that pushes out. So obviously that pushes on the brakes, it pushes this way, and it closes onto the rotor once I get that on. But obviously, as they've worn down, it gets closer and closer. So the position it's in, you won't be able to get it over top because the pads are much thicker. So what you're going to do is press that in. I'm going to use this that they make specifically for this. So it goes, this side goes on the back side of the caliper, and then this that touches. You can do this with a C-clamp. I prefer this. And then I like to put an old brake pad in there and then just use that so that I'm not pressing metal to metal. If you can see here, here's the tool. It's pressing, and I get the old brake pad, and then there's the caliper. I would just go check the master cylinder, make sure it's not pushing up any brake fluid back there. It should be okay, but I'm just going to do that. So I'm going to get this all the way down. Not all the way down. You got to be careful. You don't want to push it down so far. So I like to kind of check it every once in a while just to see what's going to fit over the brake pads. Because you can actually damage it by pushing too far, especially if you have ABS. So I'm going to put the brackets up back on. I might be doing this a little bit out of order, which is the most convenient depending on what it is, but I'm kind of doing this just so for the filming, recording, it looks a little bit easier with everything clear. All right, I need two hands here to get this on. All right, so I'm going to do the bottom one as well here. That wasn't as easy as it feels like it should be. But it's on there tight now. So that's a friction fit on there. So I got my clean rotor on that really just sits there on here. There's really nothing to it. It just goes on. So the brake pads are going to be touching right here. So I'm going to put a little bit of grease on here where they touch, and then on the ears of the pads as well. I just like to double check, but they're all the same shape, so they don't go on. There's no markings, anything. I haven't seen it in a while, but some of them used to be, say, inner or outer. Don't need a lot, as I put a lot on there, right? All right, so I'm going to put a little bit on here where it touches. Just there's. And this is just going to fit in here. Tab actually comes up a little bit, and it just fits in like that. Lift them up a little bit without bending them, just to get it started. There you go. So the caliper is going to fit over top here, so I'm going to try to get the caliper on there. All right, so it's hard to see here, but it's actually not fitting because I didn't press it enough. Let's see if I can try to see how it's that side's flush, but it's not going over, and that's why I kind of wanted to show you that the brake pad's thicker than it originally was, so you need that piston compressed enough to get over. And then once you get it compressed enough, the caliper will fit right over top. Might have to push these pins in a little bit. So that's on there nice. So I'm going to then put the pins back in and double check your torque settings. Mine for mine with the emergency brake rear was 27 foot-pounds. Get started in there. One in just to kind of help hold it in place. I'm trying to screw the other one in. It's kind of moving a little bit here. See how this is kind of turning on there? That's exactly what you don't want. Then with that rubber boot like wearing away, keep it even. Okay, that's it. Okay, so I got the new rotor on here. Once the wheel goes on, it's going to push this tight. So I'm going to do the other side, and then put the wheel back on, and then do the burn-in. So the other side's exactly the same. You've already released the emergency brake, so just do the same thing again. I'm going to bleed my brakes just because I have the kit here, especially with this power bleeder. It's really easy to do. Some people don't do it, but I figure it's the easiest. So you can actually check my other video. I'll show you a little bit better way to do it, or a little more explanation. So it's just pressurized on that side, so that when I open up this, you should get the fluid. Of course, this is rusted, so you see the fluid coming through here. I'm just going to let that make sure there's no air, and then just tighten it back up. Do that a couple times. You want to make sure it's flush again, because that rotor might be moving a little bit. Always put everything in a magnetic like this. Save yourself the pain. And before you go out driving like this, set at the pad, so just go in and just pump the brakes a couple times till you can feel it tighten up. Okay, so I got both sides done. Lugs tightened down. Check your specs. It's like someone might say 140, 145 pounds, foot-pounds. Takes a while. And if you touch the master cylinder, make sure that's tight, make sure it's not overflowing. And now it's time to do the burn-in on the brakes. I'm sure you wouldn't forget this, but make sure you remove the chocks. Not that kind of chalk, but the chocks. Okay, so now to get it out of maintenance mode, we're gonna do the same, but just kind of in reverse. Instead of where we were pushing it, we're gonna pull it. So pull it. You should say maintenance mode still. Same thing, gonna accelerator all the way to the floor. Ignition on, not starting it, turn it off within 5 seconds, back on. And same thing, we're just gonna wait. You see it's blinking over there. So it gives that, but it's actually not in maintenance mode. So I'm gonna release everything. And that's it. It seems like it's a little bit confusing. That's not saying that, but you can see if I pull it like I really want to engage it, that it does work like that. And then to push and to show the normal function. See if I want to release it, same thing. Release, press the brake, and you can see now it's turned off. So it is functioning correctly. It gives a weird. This is the final step. I said check for your power stop or whatever brakes you're using. They may not have this, but everyone I've had this, and it's all a little bit different. So I got to do 5 accelerations to get to 40, then slow down semi-aggressively to 10. It's kind of hard because you got to go through your neighborhood, and you're not supposed to be braking or coming to complete stop. And then 5 from 35 to 5, and then 5 minutes kind of driving around slowly. So I finished the burn-in. So now it just says drive around for about 5 minutes without trying not to brake. So you just want to drive around. It's kind of hard. You're not supposed to be braking. You just want to drive around and cool down the brakes and then make sure everything seems like it's working. That's it. So pretty easy to do, and you can save a lot of money.